Oh, hello, hello, hello. I
Hello.
think that was not the smoothest beginning to the stream. Um, Happy 70th stream.
Yes. This is our 70th episode. I just think that's amazing that we've done 70 episodes.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a lot.
That seems like a lot. Something about that number
Yeah, and
seems like some kind of milestone to me.
we've been talking on the internet at each other for over 70 hours.
Over 70 hours. Yeah, probably like 100 hours or so. But yeah, 70 doing anything 70 times feels like quite a thing, quite an achievement.
Totally.
So I'm really excited that this is our 70th episode. And today is Valentine's Day, which is
Happy
also
Valentine's Day.
exciting. Happy Valentine's Day to you, sir, and to everyone out there. And so, welcome to the Stream of Truth. I am Dr. Tassel Faith Shamebrook.
And I'm Sean Kelly.
And today's particular topic is a really interesting one. What is divination and how do I use it in my life?
Yeah.
So, Sean, you were going to maybe start with just a more metaphysical explanation, how
Yeah,
it
sure.
works. Okay.
So I think um, as we started to sort of approach divination earlier in our evolution as humans, we had a bit of a misunderstanding of what it was. Um, so we tend to see divination as sort of reading our future, and that is a way to see it. Uh, However, that's more of like a linear way of observing reality, and it's a little bit not. It's not quite what's happening in divination. In divination, what we're doing is we're essentially creating a mirror using a set of symbols that mean something to us, right? So whether we're reading tea leaves or tarot or like runes, whatever they are, all of the symbols have a meaning that we've ascribed to them. We've claimed a meaning to these symbols. So we are basically creating a mirror, or we're using a scrying tool like a crystal ball or water or fire. And what we're doing is we're just observing our own energetic presence, our own field now in a mirror. Is basically what we're doing. We're trying to get into a state of presence where we're in a more pure state, and then we're pulling the cards or we're doing the thing. And the idea being that our field is being laid for us to see what archetypes and what energies we're holding and working with right now. Um, in this process, what often happens with manifestation is energies that we're holding now, distortions we have now, and energies we're holding now are what we're calling into us. So when we're observing our energies now, we can say with some idea that it is likely that I'm drawing some situations of this nature to me now. So in the future, I'm likely to experience some of these types of things, or things may show up in these types of ways. So there is a usefulness to having that um, understanding of it, but more appropriately, it can be used to reflect where some adjustment is necessary, right? And so what you're looking for is the shadow aspects of the positive archetypes that you're seeing in the mirror, and saying where do I need internally to have some course correction to come more into alignment, so that some of the polarized things that I might be drawing to myself aren't drawn in that way. They're drawn in a more positive sense, or more aligned, I guess, sense. It would be a better way to put it. So yeah, so we're not predicting the future. What we're really doing as well is what tends to show in the divination is the higher potency energy fields, or energies or frequencies that are in our fields. So if basically if you go into a supermarket, let's say, and this is the supermarket, and you're choosing some cereal, and there are 1,000 boxes of cereal, but 900 of them are Lucky Charms. and then there's like, you know, a bunch of different variations of other ones. The probability or the energetic power of all the lucky charms basically means that if a being were to run in there and, you know, choose cereal, they'd be sort of drawn to the lucky charms. Now, in reality, we'd probably want to go pick some random other stuff, but the energy is drawn that way primarily. So it basically just means that's a high probability that that thing is coming in some form. Um, but it's not a certainty. It's never a certainty, and it's also not tied to time the way we see time. And so, really, the primary and most significant purpose to divination is not to see what might be coming. It's more to see where am I now and to try and calibrate, because it's kind of like a divine mirror in a way. We're basically wanting to look at ourselves and see things that are not on the surface of our field, like what's going on with us. And then that informs us sort of where we're at, where we might be out of alignment, and allows us to go deeper into those pieces within ourselves.
Yes, amazing explanation. Thank you so much. I love it. And maybe I can just relate an experience last night that really ties into everything you're saying. Last night, I had a little Valentine's party with my kids and some adults, and I just made some runes out of resin and glitter, and they're really cool. And so I asked my two friends, should we draw some runes, throw some runes just to do some divination for fun? And so we did a runes reading for my girlfriend, and the reading was a little heavy. It was a little quote unquote negative about some things in her energy field that may be possibly bringing in some unwanted things in the future. And as we were doing it, I was like, I was thinking, is this a good thing for her to do right now? Could it be just giving her ideas that, oh, bad things are going to happen? And so I felt very conflicted about it. And it made me think of all the times that, especially during my very difficult divorce custody situation 5 years ago, I was constantly using tarot cards, constantly using my pendulum, constantly going to psychics, constantly trying to find out what's going to happen, what's going to happen, what's going to happen. And I don't really do much divination anymore. I kind of dabble in it in a way for fun, but I'm much more oriented now to the idea that I'm always creating my reality. And so last night with these runes, we ended up also talking about using runes as manifestation tools, as magic tools. And each rune, there's a lot of very positive runes, and each one of them carries a certain energy signature. Things like harmonious relationships, things like abundance, things like good health. And so we talked about, in addition to the divination aspects of runes, the magical manifestation aspects of runes. And that's what I am a bit more interested in myself. But I really like what you said, that it can be helpful to check in with our current energy. And I think also when we're on this awakening ascension path, in a way, we get to a point where we know what our current energy is. Often we can tune in and know, I think I have some limiting beliefs here. I think I have some shadows here. I can see how some of the things that are coming into my reality are showing me where I might want to shift. So I think we can just be in a state of continual divination in a way, just by reading what is coming into our reality, our external reality, and And then of course we can use these other tools too, but always with the knowingness, as you said, that it's just a reflection of our current energy.
Yeah.
It's all temporary. And to know that we are creator beings. We
Yeah.
can shift, we can create what we really intend to.
Yeah, it's another way to look at it, yeah, is what am I currently in the process of creating, right? That's how I like to see it as well. What am I in the process of creating? I don't have to continue to create things that I'm not in alignment with. However, there's a lesson there too around resisting what is. So um, it really depends on the person and their sort of unique perspective on what they're observing in themselves, what they feel they're creating, and what they through divination see. Especially when we're reading for ourselves, we can have lots and lots of bias that we confirm through the cards. The intuitive symbols we see can confirm a bias, and then we call it our intuition, but it's more of just us reflecting evidence for something we really want to believe, right?
Yes. Part of what comes up for me right now as we're talking about this is if we really, really, really want to use a divination tool and we're almost just so kind of stuck on that idea, like I need to use the tarot right now, I need to use the runes to see what's going to happen, more than likely we may be holding a fear around something in our lives, or it could be a very profound desire. And I'm wondering if, not to say we can't go ahead and use the divination tool, but also what might be really helpful is to just feel into those feelings that you're having. Why do I so want to use this divination tool? What is really happening with me internally? Do I have some fears? Can I feel into those fears and move them through me? Do I have some really profound desires that are coming up? Can I feel into them?
Mm-hmm.
So the divination tool, in a way, I think is really useful at times, but it can also a little bit, sometimes you can use it like as a Band-Aid in a way, just to like sort of make yourself feel better. And I think the real work is the inner work of what is coming up for me. Can I feel into that? And as I always say, when we feel into our feelings, especially if they're uncomfortable, there's always a treasure on the other side, and usually a direction, usually some inspired direction will come in of, okay, I can do this now, I can shift this way. So yeah, I think it's really helpful just to tune in. Why am I feeling like I really want to use a divination tool?
Most of us too will go through a phase where it's like a crutch for us that we really lean on it to reaffirm for us it. And we often use it as a way to kind of hold our faith, to try.
Yes,
we can feel that there's a purity of it, like it's we can feel sort of the truth of what's happening, I think. And so it helps us feel closer to ourselves in a way, and more able to trust in what we don't really have evidence of, what we can't really see. And so as we're building faith, like these lessons are usually appropriate as well. And just like your friend who now had anxiety over their divination, or could have anxiety, like that would also be appropriate. Basically the idea being that just as we observe our energy as it is, there may be aspects of our energy as it is that make us uncomfortable. And if those areas make us uncomfortable, those are the areas where the lessons are going to be. And if that also causes us anxiety, then we have to learn that we're layering anxiety on top of. We don't have to be anxious about the lesson ahead. We don't have to do that. We can, and we do usually for a time, but that's part of the reason that we have that anxiety too. So it's not meant to be any different than just observing what is. And so this is what it is now. And if there's anything that is not accepting of that, that's where the lesson will be. And if there's anything that's really focused on having it a certain way, the lesson will be there too. And then if there's lots of anxiety and fear that comes up, um, that will contribute to the whole thing where usually we go through a cycle of having lots of anxiety and fear, and then we feel we go through the thing, and it turns out to be okay. It was not as bad as we thought it would be usually, and things like that. And we realize that our anxiety wasn't very purposeful in helping us do anything. We just sort of contributed to make the whole ride a little harder than it had to be. And so anxiety is used to teach us that we can be at peace with what's coming and what is. So that would be like one of the ways that it would be sort of appropriate for your friend or anyone to do divination. Go, oh my God, they get the death card and they're like, ah. Or the tower is one that rocks people because they know
Yes.
that means like sort of a destabilizing of a foundational thing in the life. And
Yes.
what is it? Is it my kids? What? Oh no. And I get it. I totally get it. And I'll say too that I really really leaned on tarot and oracle cards to just feel connected, uh, and feel like I knew my path. I really believed that the card was always the card, and I could really feel that was always the case, or that whatever I was scrying or whatever I was using divination for, I could feel that it was true. It was the true representation of what is now. I could always feel that. Um,
Yeah, that's really interesting. I remember when I took a tarot course 4 or 5 years ago, and it was a shaman who was running the course, and he said he believes literally the cards are like moving underneath you and just finding your hand, like almost magnetically. The right card that matches your energy are just like moving to find your hand as you're picking the card. Um, and I wanted to say what well, first of all, it was kind of interesting because I pulled a rune for myself and for you yesterday, and I actually pulled the same rune
yeah, yeah, that was
out
cool.
of 24 runes, and the rune is called Manaz. I may be mispronouncing it, but it's actually one of the meanings is about harmonious relationships and about how two can be stronger than one. And it's just a really interesting that I pulled it for both of us and the meaning of it. So that was kind of cool. That seemed like a very positive divination message.
Yeah, yeah,
And I wanted to say that the way now I most like to use, say, tarot or the runes is just choosing a tarot card that I really like the energy of, or choosing the rune that I really like the energy of, and just putting it on my desk or putting it in my pocket and just tuning into that energy and calling it in to my life.
yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah, actually, in magic practice, a lot of people use tarot to create sigils. Um, Basically, they take various archetypes. They might basically craft a spell, and then use their inner being to guide a few card choices, which they'll then turn those card choices into sigils to represent the spell, and then do an invocation and energize that sigil, and basically turn it into a sort of jar of energy for that type of that archetype. So and that's basically when you take that card of the archetype hierophant or something, and you just want to you absorb that. That's basically what they're doing, but they're just doing it a little more like ritualistic and stuff. So it can be
yes.
used. They can be used for so many different things.
And you can do the same thing with runes where you can create your own symbol. So if there's, say, 2 or 3 or more rune symbols that you're really wanting to bring that energy into your life, you can just creatively put them all together into a sigil as well that
Exactly.
combines all the energies. And that's all like really fun
Yeah.
and feels very empowering. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I think it's important, like you said. I think we go through this place of I just wanted to sort of state where kind of I'm at now and what kind of moved me out of the divination so
yeah.
much. um, is like you said, it's a little bit easier to just quickly self-assess, because what we've done as we've ascended and awakened more and more and constantly sort of we're transforming really into our divine selves, is really what's happening. As we embody that more and more, we begin to know ourselves more. That's all we're ever doing is knowing ourselves more and more, right? So as we know ourselves more, we don't need so much of the external tools to reflect to us about ourselves. If we're
Yes.
looking at tarot, for example, we start to know it's a little distorted because I have opinions and thoughts about the concepts that I'm observing that are also being drawn to me, and then I'm also making a meaning out of it. Plus, it's kind of often in a bit of a mixture of language and symbol, and so it's and any language is a couple times distorted. So it's more like we just go to the source within and just look at whatever it is. We also tend to there are always surprises, but we tend to have a bit of an understanding of what's coming, like we have an idea of what's going on now, and what where we have sights and vision of, if I continue this is probably where it's going, right? We just kind of know.
Yes. It's almost like I would say, at least my path, and maybe others have traversed this path, maybe you too, was originally I went to other people to do divination for me. I went to a
Yeah.
tarot card reader or a psychic, and I just listened with rapt attention to what they told me about my life. And I didn't really know how to do any of that myself. That was like my first stage. And then I sort of moved into, oh, I can do divination myself. And maybe I'll tell another story about that after this. And then, as you said, now I feel I'm in a bit of a further stage where I'm just reading my own life and my own energy, and I know what's happening and I can sense what is going to happen from what's happening now and what my energy is, and how I can shift and tune into creating what I really want to create. So, yeah, I don't do divination so much anymore. So it's like kind of this interesting journey.
Yeah, and I don't want it to sound like we're saying it's not good or anything, because it's a really, really useful tool. I think you know, it was really, really important that I got into it the way I did. It helped me in so many ways. And so it's perfect. Whatever you do now is perfect. But I think at least my goal is just to empower people to realize that they don't need actually even the external tools. That it's all in here, right? And it's all in here that we're trying to reflect out so we can see it. We can skip that reflecting step and just observe directly. We just have to learn how to do that a bit more because we're not used to doing that so much.
Yes, yes. We are our own divination tool.
Right.
Our
Yeah.
We can just read ourselves directly, as
Uh,
you said, rather than having to see it reflected in a tarot
and
card or a rune.
and in order to do that properly, we need to be able to see truth bit clearer. Like we need to be able to see from beyond the lower selves perspective, like to a degree, right? So we need to be able to see where, oh, my human is just agitated about this and this, but really that's just silly, and or whatever it is. Really, it's the human's confusion about this or that that's caused this. It's a misunderstanding that's happening here. And
Yes.
so if there's a misunderstanding here, there's nothing wrong with anything. Um,
Yes. And we also, it's so helpful when we're at the point where we can take off our rose colored glasses about all aspects of our life, which is not easy to do. And I think sometimes I still keep them on at times. But when we're able, as you said, to really go into our truth with courage, then we can read ourselves very accurately. Because we're not shying away from what is really going on, what's really happening in our life. Would it be okay to just take a step back and talk a little bit about how to do divination if we want to, if we're in that period of feeling that's important to do?
sure, sure, yeah.
Okay.
Where would you recommend people start?
Um, so we did a stream on channeling, for instance, and ET contact and manifesting. And I feel like for me, I'm basically going to say the same thing. I'm just going to say that it's really just, oh, and shamanic journeying, it's really just believing that you can
Mm-hmm.
will create will create the experience that you can do it. So I
Yeah,
know when I started, I would go to other people to do divination for me. I didn't believe I could do it myself. So I only got to be able to do it myself when I started to believe, oh, I can do this myself. I can do this myself. So I think the first step is just trying to release any limiting belief that you can't do it, that only other people can do it. We are all wired to do this, just like all these other really cool metaphysical skills like channeling. We're
yeah,
all wired to do all of these things. So embracing, you can even give yourself an affirmation. Uh, I'm great at divination, or I'm really learning how to do divination. Every day I get better at divination, whatever, feels truthful and that you can work with. That's not like too far up the scale. So I think that's the first step, is just the belief that you can, and you can.
yeah, yeah, for sure. That's the most important part of any of these practices we talk about, for sure. Um,
And then
is faith.
just start doing it. Just start doing it. Just um try to relax the thinking mind. Let's say you're using tarot cards, for instance. Just relax your thinking mind. You don't need to force anything. Do your tarot spread, whatever it is, and then just feel. I know I would, in the beginning, I would look at the book, the little guidebook that it comes with, or look on my phone like what different cards meant. But I think you don't have to do that. You can just look at the images, feel what's coming in, and just see what comes through you, what messages, pictures arise, feelings. It's so fun. As you said, it's this really beautiful way to actually really connect with yourself
Yep.
on that level.
It's a very creative and enjoyable experience too, at least for me.
Yes.
Because it's like using the imagination sort of faculties, like the intuition and imagine or creative side, which is tying symbols together and picking up on all these subconscious little symbols, and then
Yes.
creating these, little stories or something that we can look at. Um,
Yes.
so
And
it's interesting to do it.
you can also, before you start, you can set an intention. My intention is to be able to bring through some messages for myself here, or you can say a prayer. I ask Mother, Father, God, Spirit to assist me in this divination practice I'm doing right now. And I just wanted to share a beginning experience that I had that may be helpful for other people to hear. This was a few years ago. I was doing some shamanic training, and we were asked to each bring a rock from our backyard to this training, and we were going to do divination using these rocks. And I brought this rock, and to me, it looked just like a rock. Nothing special about it. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? What could possibly happen with this rock? It's not like a tarot card or something where there's pictures and something to really see. And the shamanic instructor put us into partners, and she told us to write down 3 questions that we would like our partner to get answers for in a divination sort of way using our rocks. So I wrote down my 3 questions. My partner wrote down her 3 questions, and we gave each other the questions. And then I looked down at my rock, and I saw things I hadn't seen before we started. It was so interesting. The little crevices and cracks and bumps on the rock all started to have sort of specific imagery. I saw like mountains, and it got into this whole thing of my partner traveling. There was a whole story that I actually saw once I started looking at the rock in the energy of, okay, we're doing divination now. So I think what happened was, it was just somehow I garnered up enough confidence that I could do it. And there was an intention in the energy that we were doing it right now. And then I swear to you, I just looked down at the rock and I saw things. Things were popping up almost like 3D out of the rock. A whole story showed. So that was just, that blew my mind. I had, up until that point, I had never had an experience like that. So my understanding now is that you can use anything to do divination. You can use any object to do divination. It's just setting that intention, believing it's possible, and tuning in and just see what happens.
Yep. Yeah. I would often use fire, or I had like a foggy crystal ball that I ended up giving to you.
Yes.
And yeah, fire, water, mirrors also are good. If you just sort of glance at the mirror and or lightly gaze at it and intend to see yourself, you'll end up usually getting some sort of imagery and stories through that. And that's how you can start sort of scrying, which is basically what you're doing with the rock, I would say. I would call that scrying, I guess. I don't know if scrying is technically has to be on a polished or shiny surface, but I'm not sure. But basically, scrying, yeah, looking at fire, rocks, water, whatever. It's all really, really interesting, and it's all sort of the same. Yeah, believe you can do it, and then I would just go whatever way feels the most interesting. I started with tarot, but you could even just use dice, right? Like you could just roll a few dice and see what numbers come up and stuff.
I do think tarot could be a great entry into divination because there's so much information on the card. There's a lot to work with.
It's a very human. Like it really helps the rational mind get on board with what you're doing.
Yes. It's
but because of that, it's also
assistance.
Because of that, it's the most distorted, though.
Yes.
In my opinion, for this type of thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I'm curious what I've never used. You gave me your crystal ball, which was so kind of you, but I haven't used it. And I'm curious what your experience has been using a crystal ball. Like,
basically the same thing that you described with the rock.
Okay.
In that crystal ball, if you look at it, you'll see that there's a lot of cracks inside of it and different gradations to the white and darker sides, and depending on where the light is hitting it, it shines differently, and it contributes to the same type of thing that you described, a sort of story, and it's just about intention primarily. But yeah, so same idea as with the rock.
And then I also wanted to mention, because you were talking about how sometimes in a way we can distort the experience because we're almost pushing our own desire energetically into the divination tool. And for instance, using the pendulum, I notice I can make the pendulum do whatever I want. If, so I have my yes thing and my no thing, and I can make it yes if I want to, just with my energy. Um, so
Yeah, you're asking yourself what you believe, right? So it will spin as you believe is the answer,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Basically. So yeah, I wouldn't doubt that at all. That's part of the reason that divination exists is we start to realize we're just asking ourselves what is going on.
Hmm.
So so for example, in the pendulum where you're doing yes no questions, or if you do yes no with tarot, the universe doesn't decide for you anything. So we tend to be like, what should I do? Right? And I used to do this with tarot a lot. I do yes or no. Should I XYZ? And if I got an up, I would go do it. Like if I got a positive or up tarot card, I would go do it. And if it was reversed, I wouldn't do it. And so I used to do that. And then what ended up happening was I can't remember now the details, but I did that, and it turned out quite poorly. Uh, and it made me reflect on how I made the decision, and then I realized, the whole part, all of that was being led up for me to realize I'm just asking myself what I want to do. Right? I'm just choosing still. I'm just choosing what I want to do. I'm not. No one's telling me to do anything. There's no other being telling me to do a thing. I'm choosing as I wish. So I'm the one who's I've already decided what I'm gonna do, and I'm asking myself to tell me what it is. And so I'm
Yeah,
like, so I don't need to do all that. And so there'll come a point where we will rely on it, and then we'll start to realize, I think, that we could just pick. We may not go through the issue I went through, but we'll realize I'm really just picking what I want, right?
yes. And this sort of subtle practice of tuning in internally to where the nudge seems to be in any action, and the great question we talk about a lot is what I want to do, is it coming from inspiration, or is it coming from fear or resistance? And obviously kind of wanting to move forward with what seems very inspired. And an affirmation I really love these days is every move I make is the perfect move for me. So once I've decided, I'm holding the energy that it's perfect.
Yeah, I honestly, I walk around. That's one of my mantras, honestly, is just there are no mistakes.
Yes.
So, because whenever I notice my mind saying, ooh, I don't like something about that, I remind myself almost immediately there are no mistakes. Because I'm reminding myself that I'm not accepting something about my reality. And so in that vein, yeah, once you've chosen something, the choice has been made, right? Um, it's not it can't be wrong. The choice
Yes.
can't be a wrong choice.
And I think I know in the past I would turn to divination tools when I was in a choice paralysis,
Yeah,
where I just kind of didn't know what to do. Um, and I think maybe one of the most underlying themes here that we're really talking about is trust oneself. Trust oneself.
yeah,
Trust that what is coming through you is perfect. And it's okay to want to turn to a divination tool or a psychic or even a friend to try to talk it out. But at the end of the day, can we just trust what seems to be coming through ourselves and know all is well?
yeah. And you always see what you want to see, what you want or need to see. You always see. Um, So when you're, um, if you're seeing that you really desire this thing and you're really pulling for this thing, you're meant to be seeing that at that moment too. Um, and so we tend to think of ourselves as um, wanting to avoid doing anything wrong or making mistakes, right? Because we have grown up in a linear sort of cause and effect type of paradigm where, and then also lots and lots of judgment and uh, accomplishment oriented learning and accomplishment oriented growth in
and
society,
and repercussions
and then also repercussions. Yeah,
if
if
you do badly, or
yeah,
yes.
not just celebrating, but also punishing in many ways.
Yes.
And so we've grown up that way. So we expect that the spiritual pathway looks like this too. And we tend to create at least for the beginning, a path that is much like all the other paths we've went on, which is framed around doing things properly, doing things the way they're supposed to be done, and all of those things. But we can let go of all of that. There is no such thing really as supposed to be done. Just as there's no mistakes, nothing is supposed to be a certain way. Um, it is as it is, and it will be as it will be. And when we realize that it's all that way, then it becomes much more peaceful. And like I forget, right? We forget this. So we're kind of like radio stations as well. So when we forget and something distracts us into a lower frequency, we start to draw more evidence of that lower frequency to us because law of attraction. We're in a lower state of frequency, so we're seeing low frequency or low vibrational distortions on the stuff we witness, instead of seeing the other side of the coin, or seeing more of the love, which we would see if we were in a higher vibration. Um, and I think my advice though is for anyone um, who's like on the path and doing all the divination or not doing it is, if it feels nice to do it and feels right, just go ahead and do it. Um, I still use it. I still use it every day. I draw a card every single day. I look at it as just like, what energy does this day hold? That's how, and I do it every day, and it's always like it's always on. Like sometimes it's so uncannily accurate, for the major theme of that day that it's weird. It's not that weird because it's kind of obvious, but it I still use it because I like to just remind myself that I set the energy. This is my energy. This is what I'm setting now. And I also take note of any desires to try to not go that way. But I don't engage with those. So if I have a desire to realign, like, so if I have a negative card come up that says, the tower is there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. Um, what I do is I let that part of me just chill, and I just watch it. I watch it freak out, and then I wait and see what happens. Um, I don't I don't worry about it because unless I am worrying about it. So if I'm worrying about it, then I worry about it. But like, so it's sort of like how charged I am around the negativity or the bad thing or the worry. That's what discerns for me. Is there like a lesson here? And in something like that, the tower, like, yeah, something's collapsing today, boys and girls. I wonder what it'll be. I'm actually more excited than I am now. That doesn't mean that I'm in a good state when the thing happens, right? Like that's a whole other ballgame. But when I know there's a thing about to happen and I get the Tower card or something, um, I just I just think this is going to be a show. This will be a thing that we're going to do, and there's not much more to say about it. But that's why I use it, is to examine how I feel about things coming in and what's coming next, and that's sort of my way of using divination now, is to just give myself a little more information about myself and how I see what's coming and my orientation to it. Not as much of what's happening, just what's my orientation to what seems to be approaching is more what
Yeah.
I'm looking at it now. So it's more of a way to self self balance or correct around my
Course
perceptions.
correct.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's really interesting. Um, and I think I do something similar, but in a different way. I try to start off the day with reading basically a prayer that includes a lot of affirmations and thank yous for what the energy that I'm bringing in. And excuse me. Um, and one of the things that I tune into as I'm doing this prayer, invocation, mantra is celebration energy. That's one of my favorite energies to really bring up in myself, that my life is so amazing and I'm just constantly celebrating all the amazingness in my life. So I try to start off my day by basically like setting my energy for the day and what I'm manifesting, what I'm bringing in. And then I'm also really honoring of any feelings that come up during the day of like fear or resistance or sadness or grief or whatever it is. So I'm kind of like doing the same thing you said. I'm paying attention to where I'm at, actually, like what energy is in me.
yeah,
Some of the more quote unquote maybe negative energies. I don't think anything is negative, but uncomfortable, more the uncomfortable energies, really honoring, always honoring those, taking off my rose colored glasses, really paying attention to what is actually happening, and then just really setting my energy as well. So I kind of I visit over here with the uncomfortable things, with the reality that maybe is not ideal. I'm there, but I tend to live in the energy that I set for myself.
yeah. That's a good point too. Um, Setting the energy for the day in the morning. Uh, I try to do this too. Um, I usually say something simple for me. I just say, "Today I will be and see the truth," and stuff like that. Um, because for me, I think that my focus is on my self peace, and I know that my any lack of peace that I have is because of something that I've perceived in confusion, in separation, and so if I see truth, then I'll be able to uplift everything into harmony or unity. And so I that's sort of how I try to orient in the day. But that's a good way to see it, is like before that, before I realized that I'm the creator here. I'm creating my experience here. Um, I was checking in to see what was up for me for the day, like with the universe. What did the universe have planned for me? But it's not quite like that, right? It's more what have I planned for myself, or what
Yes.
will I plan for myself, right? Like
Yes.
we
You
can set
deciding.
we
Yes.
can set our
Just
frequencies, and
wake up and decide, okay, this is the
it
energy that I'm holding.
takes some work and some practice, I think, to like to learn how to do that. I don't think it comes super naturally to people. To It's kind of like I would say it's very similar to acting, like when we're drawing in an energy or some type of archetypal energy of celebration or something. We're drawing that into our persona or the identity that we're embodying, and it's much like acting. We're kind of bringing the energy in to express it. and you could call it pretend, but that's basically what we're kind of doing. We're kind of pretending in some ways, but we're always doing that. We're always wearing some form of this, of energies, whether it could be some hostility and some anger and whatever, and we're always doing this, and so we're just learning how to pick which one we want to inhabit, and realizing it's up to
Exactly.
us. We could choose.
Ex-
We can
exactly.
celebrate horrible things if we want to,
Well, we
right?
can look
So
at
we could do
our
anything.
life. Sorry. Yes. Sorry to jump in
No,
there.
no, no, that's
Yeah.
okay.
We can look at our lives as a buffet, and there's many different foods on this table, this huge table of life. And we can focus on the aspects that we really like or that we don't like. And so, to me, setting one's energy in the morning every day is I'm choosing to focus on what I want and what I like and what feels really great and high vibrational. And yeah, there's some stuff in my life that I could focus on that's maybe really painful and I don't like. I could focus on that, but I'm choosing not to. I'm grooving in the neural pathways in my mind that are high vibrational, that are empowering, that confirm the truth that I am a creator being.
Yeah, and you can visit with that pain part to honor, like we've been saying before, honor what's there, right? Honor,
Yeah, as it comes up. I don't
yeah,
have to go looking for it or focus on it. But if it just naturally comes up, of course I'm going to be with it. But
right, yeah,
I'm not going to look for it. I'm going to look at what I want and I'm going to look at my life as a celebration.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I wanted to just share that I really came into this practice a couple of years ago when I was starting to prepare for my licensure exam for my therapy profession. And leading up to getting ready to this exam, there were so many really like, scary things coming in about this exam. Like many people took this exam 10 times and failed it. And it's known as one of the hardest exams in the mental health field. And there was just all this fear and stress around this exam. And it would have been really easy to play into that and focus on that and start, getting all into that story. But I just had so much guidance of Tassel, you are creating your own reality around this exam. And what reality do you want to create? So I was really careful or mindful, I'll say, how I spoke about the exam. I only spoke what I wanted to create. So this exam may have been hard for other people. It's super easy for me. Exactly what I studied is showing up on this exam. And I even set an intention of getting a 90% on the exam, which was really, really high. Most people who take it get like a 70 and because it's really, really hard. But I set this intention that I would get a 90, that not only would I pass one and done the first time, I would get a 90%. And for 2 months, as I prepared for this exam, I read a prayer every morning, like the one I said that I do. I still do it about my current things. But I read a prayer every morning. Thank you for passing this exam. Thank you for my 90%. Thank you that it is so easy. And lo and behold, when I took the exam and got my results, I passed the first time and I got a 90%, like almost exactly. It was actually an 89.4. So it blew my mind. It blew my mind that what I set for the intention for the exam came true. It absolutely came true. And this is not to say that I had tons of fears coming up every day around it. It's not like I was totally always in that energy. I had tons of fears every day they came up. And I think that was part of the process of maybe even from other lifetimes having fears around things like this and just moving through those fears.
Yeah,
But that practice, and it's something that I do with clients all the time, and I've helped tons of people pass exams with that exact practice. But that practice is what I do just in life in general now. I set my intention, I set my energy, I allow any fears to come up, but I don't live in those fears. I live over here in my intention.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. I love it. Yeah, so I think that's probably a good place to end, probably. Yeah?
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Let's do that. So thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, if you would give it a like, it really helps our work. Please subscribe to our channel. And we also have an absolutely amazing, ever-growing, fabulous Patreon community where we do so many cool things together.
And there are 90,000 members.
Yes, speak what
Right.
we want to create.
Speak what we're creating.
Well, it is ever growing, which is amazing.
Exactly.
And we have monthly super interesting courses, and we have a monthly metaphysical meeting. It's all great. It's really awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you.
And happy Valentine's Day.
And happy Valentine's Day.
So much love to everybody.